We begin our report here in New York City, less than 5 miles from our broadcast center. Donald Trump testified for the first time in the civil fraud case that threatens the future of his business. New York's Attorney General has accused the former president, Trump Organization executives, and Trump's adult sons of inflating the value of the company's assets to get a better deal on bank loans and insurance. The judge has already found Trump and his co-defendants liable for repeated fraud. He must now determine the consequences of that conduct. He has yet to rule on other charges. The lawsuit also accuses the group of falsifying business records, issuing false financial statements, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit all three. CBS News correspondent Robert Costa was at the courthouse.
Former President Trump zipped his lips in front of cameras, but on the witness stand, he was anything but quiet. Trump repeatedly lashed out at State Supreme Court Judge Arthur Engoron, the man who will decide the fate of his business empire. Asked for yes or no answers by the New York State attorney, Trump instead gave winding monologues, prompting the judge to tell him this is not a political rally, this is a courtroom, even pleading with Trump's lawyers to control him. Trump shook his head from the witness stand, saying this is a very unfair trial. Trump and other defendants, including his children, have already been found liable for fraud in the case as part of a $250 million lawsuit brought forward by New York Attorney General Letitia James. She accused Trump of inflating his assets, including Mar-a-Lago, Trump Tower, and his Seven Springs family estate, by over $2 billion in order to gain better financial terms.
That by overvaluing his properties, that he was going to get a better deal from the banks or a better deal from the insurance companies. That is illegal. The normal person cannot inflate value of properties in order to get a benefit.
Trump and his sons have blamed their accounting firm, Mazars, for any errors.
This is a case that should have never been brought.
When asked about the charges today, Trump erupted, calling questions about the valuation of Mar-a-Lago disgraceful. She should be ashamed of herself, Trump said of James, who spoke outside the court.
The numbers don't lie, and Mr. Trump obviously can engage in all of these distractions, and that is exactly what he did.
But amid the clashes, Trump notably acknowledged that he has a hand in his property's evaluations, saying, "I would look at them, I would see them, and I would maybe on occasion have some suggestions." Asked by the state attorney whether he ever thought the values were off, Trump said yes, on occasion, both high and low.
And Robert Costa joins me now from outside the courthouse. Bob, what information were they trying actually to get from the ex-president with this cross-examination?
John, it was quite a dramatic, intense scene inside of that courtroom today because you had the New York State attorneys trying to draw the former president out to talk about his financial statements and how he played a role, which he acknowledged, in the valuation of various properties. But Trump would also take the conversation and the answers in a winding direction so often that it really sparked the ire of Judge Arthur Engoron as he sat just a few steps away from Trump. And Trump, as a witness, clearly frustrated him to the point where the judge repeatedly said to Trump's legal team, please keep the witness in line. And the Trump lawyers kept saying, look, he's the former president of the United States. He's essentially going to do what he wants.
And, Bob, you've been to a lot of the Trump rallies over the years. They can be quite discursive and cover a lot of territory. In what he said today in the courtroom, did you... how similar was that to a rally? And also, secondarily, was there any substance in what he was saying, even if sometimes he went on to different territory?
John, as a historian and longtime writer, in addition to all of your work for CBS, I think you would understand what I'm trying to say here. Trump, I've often seen at his rallies, as what I would call an M-dash political figure, someone who goes in tangents, doesn't always complete the thought, will go wind around a point, make another point, then come back to it. That's what it was like today. He was the M-dash witness, in my assessment, someone who would answer the question but then give an explanation, then a historical review of his context and in review of the entire valuation of his property, to the point where it really vexed the New York State attorneys and the judge.
You can always tell a print reporter when they refer to M-dashes. Robert Costa in New York City. Thanks a lot, Bob.